Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe to all the YouTube rigmarole. The new Masters of the Universe Revelation trailer is online, and reactions have been mixed. The only observation that I have is that between this and Loki, I am really sick of hearing holding out for a hero. But we're not here to talk about trailers, we're here to talk about action figures, and I happen to be lucky enough to find the new Mattel Masterverse, Masters of the Universe Revelation Deluxe Skelegod. Starting off with the packaging, and this is the first time I'm looking at a Masterverse box, so I do kind of want to be a little bit more thorough than usual. From the top, we can see the Masterverse logo and the points of articulation. We also have the barcode, which is kind of weird. Netflix logo here. Nice big window showing off what you're getting. Masters of the Universe Revelation logo down there, along with the character name. Automatically, I want to make comparisons to Marvel Legends. In addition to the big window box, we have the series logo up top, as well as the line and character name below. That being said, the black and blue motif also reminds me a lot of their last run of DC Multiverse. It also kind of reminds me a little bit of McFarlane's Multiverse, especially with having the articulation points in the corner. On the side, we can see that this is Skelegod, the Cosmic Lord of Destruction. Again, the name being on the side reminds me a lot of DC Multiverse. But then on the other side, we do get some pretty cool artwork. Again, not unlike Marvel Legends. And then on the back, we get the full artwork and the other figures in the line. Skeletor lives his life with a singular purpose: to control the unlimited powers of the entire universe. Time after time, the Bane of Eternia was thwarted by He-Man and the heroic warriors. What kind of monster would be unleashed should they be unable to stop the Lord of Destruction? Surely a raging storm of horror and terror even the bravest dare not imagine. And as we can see down here, other figures in the wave include Battle Cat, He-Man, Mossman, Skeletor, and Evil Lyn. To me, this is just about perfect. Nice artwork, good write-up, product shots of the other figures, simple, uncluttered, communicates everything you need to know. All the legal is right here on the bottom, and if you look closer, you can still see that kind of craggy rock texture underneath. Here's the barcode for those who are interested in such things. And just one other thing I wanted to point out. Unlike most action figures, which are made in China, this came from Vietnam. There's little pieces of tape just about everywhere. Cut, cut, and cut. And I guess we gotta cut this one too. Alright, it actually opens from the top. Slide them out. That was actually a lot easier than I expected. Getting a better look at what's inside, we can see that Skeletor does have some elastics, and he's got this backer tray that could actually be pretty good for some photography. So far, I'm really encouraged. For packaging, I'm giving Skelegod 1 whole point. Just a word of warning, do be careful trying to cut him out of that box. I accidentally nicked myself trying to cut the elastics. But moving on to presentation, we can see that Skelegod stands at 7.5 inches. Starting off with the head, we can see that Skelegod is wearing this kind of purple ram's horn helmet. Kind of reminds me of Skeletor's magical staff. He only has a couple of dots for eyes, though it does have a creepy effect. And I really like the wash that they put on the actual skull face to bring out all that detail. Solid green neon piece underneath, which is kind of jarring, but honestly, when you're just posing him around, it's pretty well hidden by this magical kind of collar piece. Speaking of washes, there is a bit of blotchiness all over his skin to give him kind of a dirty, ruddy look. Did kind of miss the mark over here a little bit. Unfortunately, all of his straps and armor bits are a different shade of blue, so it kind of melds together. I think it would have been better if they used that same purple from the helmet. It would have just added a bit more contrast. But that's really more of a criticism of the design itself rather than how the action figure executes it. I love how his belt kind of looks like a pair of angry eyes with horns, and honestly the loincloth almost looks kind of like a beard. It's like a whole hidden face right there. Speaking of hidden faces, we also have some faces on his gauntlets and knee pads. He's got some nice long menacing claws, but only 3 toes on each foot. The cape is cloth goods, and to be honest, it's really the only part of this figure I'm a little bit iffy on. What I do like, however, is the layers. This layer is separate, these are separate. They've also got these kind of plastic diamond things on the bottom to help weigh them down, and then the bottom piece is separate and has these little scallops kind of like Batman. Overall, this is a fantastically sculpted, well-executed figure. A little bit of rubbing at the joints aside, there's also a lot more paint detailing than I'm used to seeing at this scale. Even the cloth goods cape, which is something I'm not usually a fan of, is handled pretty well. I'm assuming that this idea is inspired by the live-action He-Man movie, when Skeletor gets a hold of the power sword and takes over Grayskull, but in my humble opinion, this is what an OP Skeletor should look like. For presentation, I'm giving Skelegod 1 whole point. Starting at the top, and Skelegod's head is on a dumbbell joint. We can kind of see it a little bit from the back. Doesn't look up a whole lot, but pretty good down. Decent amount of head tilt, and all the way around. These shoulder pieces are pretty flexible, so he can move his arms above 90 degrees, and with a little bit of creativity, you can get them all the way around. Bicep swivel, double jointed pinless elbows. Side note, the cape just fell off. Apparently, it's actually magnetic, and clips in right there. This is honestly a fantastic way of handling capes. Side to side and hinge at the wrists. He's got a diaphragm joint that's pretty well integrated into the sculpt. Arches back that far and hunches over that far. Spinny waist all the way around. Lifting up his loincloth, we can see that Skelegod has ball jointed hips. We can also see that they left him flesh tone, so there's that. Just like the shoulder pads, this is pretty flexible, so he does kick out a pretty decent amount. Good thigh cut, double jointed pinless knees, swivel at the boot, and his ankles go front, back, and pivot. Hands down, the best articulated Mattel figure I have ever played with. For posability, Skelegod gets 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and Skelegod comes with these more closed hands. They aren't fists exactly, but they are designed for holding things. For example, Skelegod also comes with this power sword, which he holds onto very nicely.
I have the power!
I know, he doesn't talk like that in the cartoon. For those of you who don't know, in Masters of the Universe Revelation, he is actually voiced by Mark Hamill. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. And last but not least, Skelegod comes with this pretty nifty energy punch. But playability is more than just accessories, it's also about how well your figure plays with others. I don't have any of the other new figures, but here he is side by side the original Skeletor I had when I was a kid. In just this one image, we can really see how far action figures have come. But while we're on the subject, here he is alongside some other defenders of Eternia. Unfortunately, I no longer have my original He-Man as he has been destroyed, but this is still a pretty nice trip down memory lane. For a Mattel DC comparison, here he is alongside the DC Superheroes Robin and the Collect and Connect Super Luthor. For a deluxe villain comparison, here he is side by side the Marvel Legends Thanos. For a general Marvel Legends comparison, here he is alongside Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Wolverine. For a 7-inch comparison, here he is side by side the Marvel Select Venom. For a McFarlane Toys comparison, here he is alongside the DC Multiverse Superman and the Warhammer 40k Necron Warrior. And last but not least, for a Mark Hamill comparison, here is Skelegod side by side Luke Skywalker and the Joker. I really need better Star Wars toys. With extra hands, an energy effect, and a sword, Skelegod comes pretty well packed on his own. And even if you don't collect the other Masterverse figures, there's a lot of fun collections you could slip them into. For playability, I'm giving Skelegod 1 whole point. I picked up Skelegod for $30 over at Target, which for his accessories and his stature seemed like a pretty fair value. I can't speak for you, but the original solicitation pictures for this line really didn't have me all that encouraged. Getting him in hand, however, I am really impressed. Masters of the Universe was one of the most important toy lines of the 1980s. It had many imitators and established what a 5-inch toy line could look like. Now, decades later, it really feels like Mattel is learning its lessons from other companies and reinvigorating its brand all over again. It's a great start to the Masterverse, but also a great figure all on its own. For price, I'm giving Skelegod 1 whole point for a grand total of 5 out of 5. I hope you've enjoyed this look at the Mattel Masterverse Masters of the Universe Revelation Deluxe Skelegod. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.